Hi, so it's been a great MILCON 2019 Global Conference. It got over yesterday. Today I was in San Diego to meet a friend. Just got back, and tomorrow I go back to Singapore, and I guess that's when you will see this video. We had a wonderful evening at the Crustacean restaurant. It's got an amazing story. The best persons to explain that is the family who set it up. So I have a video, and we had MC Hammer at the dinner. It was put together very nicely, and I've also got some clips of my friends who are also members of the MILCON Young Leaders Circle, explaining what were their most interesting talks. So let's get straight into it, and here are the clips.
She is being honored this year at the Smithsonian. Everyone's attention. Stop talking, please, honestly. I want everyone's attention tonight because stop talking about business, fuck that. This woman needs every ounce and second of our attention, okay? 40 years ago, and I'll tell the stories as best I can, Bo. Can I tell the story as best I can? No, Bo, you tell the story. You have to tell the story. So Bo is a granddaughter. This is their restaurant. Please explain San Francisco Chronicle, the whole thing, in 5 minutes.
Okay, no pressure. I'm going to speed through this. My grandmother was the daughter of a Mandarin in Vietnam. She grew up very wealthy as a child, very prominent in aristocratic Vietnam when it was taken over by the Japanese. Then she fled through the jungle when the communists took over the north, escaped by raft to Saigon and then to Dalat, where she studied in a boarding school and lived in a monastery on the weekends. During the monastery, she learned how to cook, and she kind of went to finishing school to become a proper lady. Completely penniless, but with a title. She married my grandfather, who was the wealthiest man in Saigon, the only son to a very wealthy landowning developing family in Saigon. They had a huge estate, a big splashy wedding, and my grandfather was very spoiled and got thrown into the military. Started as a general, as all wealthy Asian children who get stuck in the military would. And because of that, when Vietnam fell, they boarded a refugee military aircraft to Clark Air Base. So my grandma and her 3 children ended up in a refugee camp. Then they lived in Guam for 2 months while they processed asylum, and came to Camp Pendleton in San Diego for 6 months, where they finally got their papers, and ended up in San Francisco, where in 1968 my great-grandmother had purchased a deli on a whim. My grandmother had never really cooked professionally a day in her life, but none of them spoke English either, so taught herself English in a year, got her CPA, became an accountant by day, took over the deli by night. 8 very wealthy royal Vietnamese people lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. Slowly, she turned that 20-seat deli into a 40-seat deli into an 80-seat restaurant. And then in 1991, my mother, who loved fashion, said we need to do a high-end Vietnamese restaurant, which in America at the time had never been heard of and didn't exist. They had $99,000 exactly to the penny in their savings account, and my mom convinced my grandma to bet the entire family life savings on a restaurant. And in the first month, they were slated to go bankrupt because Michael Bauer from the San Francisco Chronicle came in, said my grandmother's ravioli tasted like saliva, you could get better food in the Tenderloin for 50 cents, everything was terrible, and Asian food's supposed to be cheap and oily, and forget fancy Asian food. And then at the same time, a writer from the San Jose Star came, tasted my grandmother's food, was Asian, understood it, said this was revolutionary, it had never been done before, and her garlic noodles were worth marrying for. So my mom, being very ballsy and ambitious, told my grandma, we're gonna go bankrupt anyway, so we may as well mortgage our house while we're at it. They mortgaged their home, so that was the entirety of their life savings, to take out a front page ad in the San Francisco Chronicle. On the left was Michael Bauer's 1-star review. On the right was the 5-star review from San Jose, and they captioned it, Who's correct? You decide. Free noodles for a week.
Garlic noodles.
Garlic noodles for a week. The rest was history. The Crustacean San Francisco became a runaway success. Michael Bauer came back, said he finally understood what my grandmother's food was, and it wasn't Asian, but it was Asian fusion. And my grandmother is the mother of Asian fusion cuisine in America. In 1997, they opened Crustacean Beverly Hills and brought the first truly high-end Asian fusion restaurant to Beverly Hills. My grandmother was honored by the Smithsonian along with 20 other families like the Lees and the Samsungs for their contribution to Asian American cultural identity in America. And now they're building a permanent Asian American wing where my grandmother was selected as the preeminent chef for bringing Asian food around the world. So.
That's very well known.
Your favorite session at Milken, and how's it going?
The sessions have all been great. It's been amazing hearing from the head of the IMF, hearing about opportunity zones, talking about the futures of stock exchanges. But personally, my favorite was actually listening to Joe and Anthony Russo, the directors of Avengers Endgame, and hearing their take on the media industry and where the thematic things are going in both TV and movies. So it's been a really fun conference so far. Thanks.
What's the next one you're looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to talking about agri-tech and how it affects national security and the security of kind of the planet.
Okay, Grace, so tell us about Milken so far and your favorite session.
Yeah, so favorite session is the one this morning. I went to a session talk about AI technology, and what fascinating about that session is they discuss the difference between human and AI in the lens of humanity, ethical, emotional intelligence. Is really eye-opening, session, making me realize that what's most powerful is the combinations of human, man, and AI together.
Great. What are you looking forward to now?
Sorry?
What session are you looking forward to now?
There are many good sessions this afternoon and tomorrow. I'm going to the one in the afternoon. We'll be discussing the changes in the private equity space.
So it was interesting also hearing from Alex Rodriguez today, talking about his transition, going from playing in the Major League Baseball to running his own business. The success he's had in business is pretty impressive, and how he actually looks at developing people, working with his teams. All that was really quite interesting. The aspects of how much sports has influenced his life is obviously evident, but how he actually takes that into the business world has also been quite interesting.
Well, that was all I have for this this video. Please give your feedback. It's a good learning experience, and hopefully I'm getting better with each video.
No, I'm good. Talk about our epic.
So one of the other things that was great hearing from was, okay, I'm going to start over since you guys kept talking over it, both of you.
Sorry.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Then you bring out the natural acting skills I have. Now we should go to the session.
We also got to hear from Stephen Schwartz and where he thinks and where, actually, sorry, cut that all out. What was the other session? Now you're freaking me out.
Yes, and please don't forget to subscribe, share, like. I think we're reaching the 50 subscriber mark. This is our 5th video, so keep them coming.